Okay, 7:01, and I will call the meeting to order. If we could please stand for the pledge. The pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays to you all. If we could have a roll call, please.
Catherine Ailing.
Here.
Adam DeYoung.
Here.
Megan Doyle.
Here.
Andrew Fowler.
Here.
Tracy Irby.
Here.
Emily McDonough Souza.
Ms. McDonough Souza is excused for illness.
Una Petrosky.
Ms. Petrosky is also excused for illness.
Gary Pelichuti.
Here.
Sorry. Cindy
Close.
Boynton.
Here.
Susan Glennon.
Here.
8 members present.
Thank you. All right, so again, this is the December 12th, 2022 business meeting of the Milford Board of Education. We will move on to student reports. I believe Lauren goes first this evening. Good evening.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I'm happy to be speaking with you again to fill you in on the recent events that happened in December. So to start, Foreign won the Michaels Cup Award at the end of November, and the cup was created in the early 1980s by Roy Michaels, owner of Michaels Jewelry, and it's used to honor exemplary athletic programs for their willingness to follow Class Act sportsmanship standards. And these standards empower students to take an active role in their community by contributing to service projects surrounding their sports. Foreign also participated in the Play for Applause volleyball tournament at the end of last month. Many staff members and students enthusiastically played, coached, and cheered on their teammates. It was a great time for all involved, and most importantly, the tournament raised over $1,000 for the Connecticut Humane Society. The Forever Friends Club also gathered for their Friendsgiving dessert party before Thanksgiving. They all enjoyed sweet treats, played games, and shared what they are thankful for this holiday season. In addition, they also packed food bags for donation for those in need. On the topic of class fundraisers, the freshman class held their fundraiser with Jimmy's Pizza on Thursday, December 1st. All day on December 1st, a portion of Jimmy's sales went towards the class of 2026. For sophomores, they held a fundraiser with Munson's Chocolates. People were able to support the class of 2025 by purchasing delicious treats for the holidays, and all payments were made out by December 6th. We thank these organizations for participating in these fundraisers and helping our school. Our Latin students visited the Yale Art Gallery and learned about ancient excavations, art, and artifacts, all from Yale Dawkins and Professor Charles Mercier. In the Physical Education Department, at the annual CT Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Conference, this year's team's presenter was Foreign's phys ed teacher, Ms. Catherine Ganun. She led building activities like pipeline ball, and districts from around the state participated. Congratulations to Ms. Ganun. From November 28th to December 14th, Foreign has been accepting donations for Toys for Tots, a program run by the United States Marine Corps Reserve that distributes toys to families in need. Students and staff have been able to place a new unwrapped toy outside of the TLC or main office to give back to their community. We thank the Student Council and Milford Fire Department for running this important fundraiser. And our Model UN students in 2 of our classes recently went to their first conference at the University of New Haven. Students in the conference work with other world leaders to discuss topics of mental health awareness and aid, along with protecting civilians during armed conflict. The students in Mr. Phelan's class were awarded honorable delegation, and 8 students won awards at the conference. These included Zachary Israelite, John Brown, Jillian Junga, and Isabella Valentine. Ava Scholl and my colleague Venice Montanero won 2 awards as both delegates in best position papers, so congratulations. And finally, last Friday, December 9th, Foreign held their Pajama Day and raised $338 for Connecticut's Children Foundation in Hartford. A big thanks goes out to all students and staff who participated and brought in donations to support child health care. I thank you again for your time and look forward to speaking with all of you again in January, and happy holidays.
Hi everyone. So I want to continue on with some of the great stuff Connor was talking about. So to begin, Foreign Wrestling represented a plunge for Bristol. So our boys supported the community that lost 2 police officers in the line of duty. We had our National Honor Society induction ceremony this week, which was a beautiful event to recognize many of our incredible students. We had 29 new members welcomed with music, speeches, and more. Tomorrow, Tuesday, December 13th, Foreign will be holding our winter concert in the auditorium. So the concert features the jazz ensemble, choir, orchestra, and the concert band. The time is 7 p.m. and the event is free and open to the public, and donations are more than welcome. We encourage you all to stop by and check out some festive holiday music and our wonderful music program. Our creative writing students worked in small groups at writers' workshops this past month. So this gave them the opportunity for students to read and discuss each other's work, share feedback and ideas, and more importantly, to support each other in the revision process. Currently, each student is writing an original short story, pursuing a topic and genre of their choice to develop an authorial voice. Intro to Early Childhood Education students visited the Goddard School in Orange, Connecticut to observe and identify the philosophy, curriculum, teaching, and guidance strategies that were taught at the school. So the students also watched a presentation from Mrs. Deloma, the librarian, as she presented banned books and censorship, as well as choosing quality children's literature to introduce the diversity unit. Our Intro to Photography students were exploring the components of exposure by isolating the shutter speed. So students were working with partners to either create a stop-action effect or an illusion of intentional motion with their images by selecting the appropriate shutter speed for the moving water. So the images were very cool and they were incredible photos with stunning movement and light. So on the 14th, we will also be having a Green Day for Sandy Hook Promise. Students are encouraged to bring a donation and wear green in support. And the Sandy Hook Promise's mission is to educate and empower youth and adults and prevent violence in schools, homes, and communities. On December 15th, we have an exciting opportunity for all of our students. So all of our students who are interested in learning about the career and trade, such as plumbing or electrical or HVAC, a representative from the Connecticut Apprenticeship Program will be here on December 15th. So interested students can see Ms. Wonder in the school counseling office and sign up and learn more about these fields. Our Key Club had a poinsettia and wreath sale, which had many cool colors and designs and were picked up on the 9th to decorate families' homes. Pam McLaughlin from the Hartford Courant came to Foreign to talk and visit with Journalism 2. She explained tips for being a good reporter and writer. Lastly, on Sunday we had a candlelight vigil to honor Julie Mignone, and on Friday, December 16th, we will be wearing purple, a simple yet meaningful way to raise awareness about domestic violence. All of our donations will go straight to the family to support them during this tough time in this holiday season. Thank you all for your time and support. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season filled with incredible memories, food, and people. See you next month.
Thank you. Dr. Law?
Thank you and good evening, board members. It is a pleasure to be with you once again. I will begin tonight with some Law-amazing news. Law's homecoming dance saw a total of 547 attendees. The event was a huge success and featured concessions, a balloon arch, dancing, smiles, and lots of photo ops. The Giving Tree project, funded by the National Honor Society, is underway at Law. Students and staff have fulfilled the wishes of many children by bringing in various gifts requested on the tree. They will be sent out this Thursday. The Bristol Police fundraiser was created by Mr. Batson and Miss Bluday. They designed a rubber blue bracelet which reads JLHS supports Bristol PD. This was created in order to honor their bravery and everything else they do for the community. Students here at Jonathan Law came together to raise money for the fallen officers' families. Each bracelet is $2, with the money being donated to the police department over the weekend. Safe Promise Club took a field trip to West Hartford for the Regional Youth Leadership Training. The Safe Promise Club has also been running the 14 Days of Action, which is a call to action campaign in memory of the Sandy Hook tragedy. This event runs from December 1st to 14th and has different activities each day. They have hosted Mindfulness Monday, Trusted Adult Tuesday, Wear Green Wednesday, Thank You Thursday, and other events. The goal of this campaign is to honor the memory of lives lost through improving and educating individuals and the community as a whole.
Now in academics, Law's AP Psychology students hosted the annual Brainsgiving event. Groups of students had to research the brain and create a zombie restaurant and menu. The themes were the brain, the nervous system, the endocrine system, or genetics, and the groups came up with creative ideas like the Brain Forest Cafe or On My Nerves Cafe and brought in 2 food items from their menu for the event. The Early Childhood Education class took a field trip to the Elm City Montessori School on December 16th, and the Medical Terminology class took a field trip to the Milford Vascular Institute. 2 law students received the Best Delegate Award at the Model UN Conference 2 weekends ago. And in the Teaching and Learning Commons, 865 books have been checked out this year. In the business department, the Law FBLA Club has been planning and will be hosting a Winter Wonderland event on December 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. for all Milford families. Milford's own Rick George will be there for photo opportunities with Santa, along with arts and crafts and games. In the Math Department, the National Math Honor Society, under the supervision of Mr. Rosbarsky, hosted a very successful induction ceremony, inducting 27 new members, representing the classes of 2023, 2024, and 2025. In the Science Department, the Science Club has been preparing for the Science Olympiad that they will attend in person at MIT on January 21st. And also, approximately 20 students were invited to join the Science National Honor Society, which is a brand new chapter filled with our first group of students at our school. In the music department, a record number of students scored extremely high at their CMEA regional auditions, and we have 26 law students performing at the festival in January. Also, for the first time ever, we have 6 students who were accepted into the All Eastern Honors Festival in Rochester, New York in April. The winter concert is taking place on December 15th, and the music department would love to see you there.
In Law sports action, Law celebrated its Thanksgiving football game tradition and football team victories in the playoffs. Although we lost in the semifinals, the season was the most successful in school history. 5 student athletes recently signed letters of intent to compete at the collegiate level.
And finally, some updates from the School Counseling and College and Career Department. The School Counseling Department hosted its annual on-the-spot admissions day last Friday, where over 15 seniors were able to receive their admissions decisions instantly from schools such as Quinnipiac, University of New Haven, Southern CT State, Western CT State, and more. The department will also host a speaker from the CT Apprenticeship Training Program this Thursday. The session is open to all students and families interested in learning more about the trade pathways and preparing to begin an apprenticeship. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you all, and we look forward to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, students. Happy holidays to you, and feel free to head out if you have things you need to get done tonight. Thank you for coming. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make public comment this evening? Seeing none, I'll dispense with the public comment statement.
Take care.
Next on the agenda, we have approval of 2 working agreements. Mr. Fowler, do you have a motion for item V for the cafeteria workers?
I do. A motion that the Milford Board of Education approve the settlement agreement between the Milford Board of Education and the United Public Service Employees Union, Milford Cafeteria Workers for the period retroactive to July 1st, 2022 through and including June 30th, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Pelichetti seconds. Is there any discussion? All in favor, seeing none? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item 6, Mr. Fowler for the custodial and maintainers union.
I motion that the Milford Board of Education approve the settlement agreement between the Milford Board of Education and the Milford Schools Custodian and Maintainers Union, Local 2018, Council Number 4, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, for the period retroactive to July 1st, 2022 through and including June 30th, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Pelichetti seconds. Beat you out. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. On to the chair's report. Just a reminder for the board that there's no committee of the whole meeting this month, and we begin our budget work in January with Dr. Kutaya presenting her budget on the 9th at our business meeting. And then we will move on to a series of workshops on the 11th and 12th, which will be virtual meetings. And on the 18th, in person for the potential adoption of the budget. And don't forget to hold the 19th in case we need an extra day for any reason. I'd also like to ask everyone to keep the family of Julie Minogue in your hearts in the coming days and weeks. It's a difficult time for them. Especially, please remember our students and staff at Foreign, where one of the children attended. Many of them were at the vigil yesterday, and it was very moving. They were really a great group of kids. Moving on to any liaison reports. Mr. Fowler.
Thank you. The Permanent School Facilities Building Committee met on December 8th. So a few items. Silver Petroselli told us that that we're waiting on materials for the hardening of the entryways at Live Oaks and Calf Pen. They're unsure of when those supplies will get in, but there was a proposal that they and the principals and Pat Bradbury meet, and the fire marshal meet about potentially using other entryways for the time being. But other than that, there's the also an update on the Bourne roof project. They told us that they can't do the full roof because there's not enough funding for it, but they built in add alternates, and the grant application has been submitted to the state, which might take a month, so hopefully it'll go out to bid shortly, and I'll let Ms. Thornton finish the rest of the report.
So the other thing that was reported at that meeting is that, as we heard from Mr. Bradbury in our last meeting here, the construction crews have been busy removing the rock ledge that was found during the construction over at Pumpkin Delight. It looks like that removal is going to be done this week, which is really great. The principal of Pumpkin Delight was also at our meeting and talked about how the teachers were actually taking advantage of the construction that was going on. Math and science teachers developing lessons around it, and some of the children are actually making a documentary of the construction that's going on. So that will be fun to see at the end.
Very nice. Any other liaison reports? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report for your items. Dr. Pataya?
Thank you, Ms. Glennon, and board members. We're launching into a couple action items here. And superintendent's report to start with is the schedule of meetings for this board of 2023. If you bring your attention to that inclusion, the pattern of having meetings on second and fourth Monday of each month is continued, with the exception of when you get to April. April 10th is the Monday after Easter, which is during our spring break. Therefore, meetings in April will be the 3rd and 4th Mondays of April. We continue our pattern of having one meeting in June, one in July, one in August, and then one in December. Otherwise, our pattern for calendar schedule of meetings is the same.
Can we make sure that we add a notation to the bottom of the calendar, notating the difference on the April meeting? We'll just do it.
Oh, and there's also a Tuesday meeting in September because of Yom Kippur.
Okay, and that's already noted at the bottom. Do you have any questions on the calendar? Seeing none, do we have a motion, Mr. Fowler?
I motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the 2023 Board of Education meeting schedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Pelichick seconds?
Nope.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mr. DeYoung seconds. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is for your consideration, first read of the 23-24 academic calendar. Bring your attention to that attachment as well. Walk you through some of what is highlighted here and a couple of changes also that I would like the board to take into consideration.
Board members, I just want to make a note that you have a corrected version that shows the correct last day of school at your workstations.
Does everybody have that corrected version?
Yeah.
Last day of school on the corrected version is June 7th. Okay, great. So we'll be working off of that copy. So we start with first day of school for students on August 30th. Staff members come back on Monday, the 28th. This is a calendar that does include 181 days for students. That is typical for Milford Public Schools. If you bring your attention to September, we have the typical holidays off there, our Labor Day, and I believe that is Yom Kippur. We have one early release day there for professional learning, which is typical. If we move to October, there's a professional learning early release day on the 25th. That is also a month of parent conferences, so there's some early release days there that we'll determine later and communicate to families. In November, we have the Election Day professional learning, early release day, in November, as well as an early dismissal with Thanksgiving long weekend. December, early release day for professional learning and your typical holiday break. Although that does feel a little shorter there, doesn't it? It's gonna be one of the shorter vacations than we're experiencing. We move into January. There are 2 early release days there. That's one of the first changes I want to bring your attention to. We normally have 1 early release day. I'm asking for the consideration of the board to give us 2 more Wednesday early releases this next coming year. We're just finding that there's so many changes in curriculum, with their work on HQI, as we gear up more work in the area assessment and using student data to inform instructional practice, bringing to the board a consideration for adding 2 early release days in the calendar. Landed them in January, February because of what the other months look like. It would have been great to have something earlier like October, but those are parent conferences and an early release. Would have been great to have it in March, but that's parent conferences and early release also. And then there are other months with holidays in them. So January, February felt like the right times, and they're smack in the middle of the year. It's time to really, a good time for us to focus, dig deep into curriculum. So I'm asking the board to consider 2 additional early release days. So you'll see that in January added. The 10th is the added day. We normally have one that 3rd week, 4th week actually, on the 24th. February, you'll see the added early release day on the 7th. We have a long holiday there, which we call our winter break, that 4-day weekend, early release day on the 21st. March, professional learning early release, and then we also have conferences sometime in this month. There is, the 29th is Good Friday, so Good Friday comes early, March 29th, and Easter Sunday is March 31st, pardon me, with spring break after. If you recall a few years back when I first got here, we did a survey on calendar with parents, and overwhelmingly they asked for a spring break that did not include Good Friday, that it was starting on Good Friday, and that it was Easter Monday that would start the spring break. So we've been responsive to our community by doing that the last few years. You'll note early release day in April and May. It is typical that we have early release days the last 2 or 3 days of school, so you'll see that noted in June. June 7th gives us 181 days. And of course, that does not bake in any snow days we may have. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from the board?
Yes.
Mr. Pelichetti.
The April break, is that in keeping with the surrounding towns? Are they doing that week as well?
It is different town to town. We have not done our homework yet.
Okay.
There used to be, I don't know if the board knows, a regional calendar that ACES would put out. There was some legislation at that point where regionally we'd have to adopt the same calendar. That's been dropped, so most municipalities, most boards of ed have gone to their own, depending on what is responsive to their community. So I don't have that answer, but we can start doing some homework to see who has already approved a calendar.
Okay.
I think we're a little on the early side as a community to approve a calendar. No? Okay. So we'll see if there's anything out there that we can get.
I think also it just bears repeating that we did a number of years ago survey parents, and their preference was to have the week following
Yeah.
Good Friday as the break. So we can be responsive to our own community.
We heard from our faith community very loudly about that, actually.
Yes,
They felt
as well.
strongly.
If I may, the reason I asked is that it can present a problem for public school teachers in Milford
Yeah.
that work in other districts.
Mhm.
When they have a week off and their kids don't, and then they're covering doing childcare for their own
Right.
kids while they're working and vice versa, and since it's the only full week off in the school year, it impacts
Mhm.
family travel, so that was the reason why I asked.
Do we have, do we find that most of our teachers come from area towns, or are they spread out across the state widely or not?
I'd have to look at that. Typically, people are in the Milford, Stratford, West Haven, Orange
Mhm.
area.
Yeah.
But they can come, from as far away as,
Well, I know that some do come
Yeah.
from fairly far away,
Yeah.
so.
But I would, suggest if we look at maybe the surrounding towns at the very
We
least.
take a look
you know.
at that.
Thank you.
Mr. Dion?
Thank you. I was really happy to see that you were able to find 2 spots to get more professional development in. I know you've been talking about that for a while. My only concern about it, and I know you don't have a lot of places to put it, so I understand that there's constraints there, but, we're coming back from holiday vacation into January, and there's not a full week of school until the last 3 days of January and the first 2 days of February, and then the same thing happens in February. So I'm not sure how you would handle that. My thought was that you potentially could move the early dismissal day to a week that there is already something else happening. So, the 15th of February, or January is off. Could you put it on the 17th? Or could you put it on the 25th? Something to that effect. Just so that it's, it's very difficult for families when it's, one day off, 1 week, and then you have to figure out childcare and things like that. So I'm just curious if there's additional ways we could get around that. I really support the 2 days. I just wondering if there's anything we can do about it.
I'm, as long as it lands on a Wednesday, we can be flexible. I thought that, having 2 days disrupted in 1 week would cause more of a hardship on families as opposed to like spreading it out, but, I'm happy to consider the voice of families on where it lands. I mean, it wouldn't matter to us if it was the 17th or 14th. It may matter the 17th because, I think that's midterms week.
Okay.
For high school, so that's a high school only matter.
Mm-hmm. Or it could, I was wondering, you could also move it to the 31st.
Yeah. Well, 31st is a whole week, so you don't want me to mess with a whole week, right?
Fair point. So, why do you have to have it on a Wednesday? Is that a contractual thing?
There is language in the teachers, Ms. Capazza. Wednesdays is, that
Wednesdays,
language in the
it's
contract?
because it's the meeting days, so we do the professional learning so they can have the extended amount of time to get in the groove and get a lot of stuff done. We combine the two. And
Okay, so-
Wednesdays
Get a
are
little
the
extra
day
bang for
meetings,
our buck.
yeah.
Understand, okay. All right, I'm just thinking about it, so, I personally think it's more of a hardship for the weeks to be broken up, but it's more of a personal opinion than anything, so.
I was just gonna say, if it's 2 days in a row and the Wednesday is the longer day, sometimes having 2 days in a row, you kind of retain more. It can continue from there. I don't know, if 1 month it's 2 days in a row compared to the split, I don't know. Maybe I'm not. I agree, I support the 2 days. It's just a matter of what the families work best for you, staff, and for the families of students.
Other comments or questions? Okay, so this is a first reading, so it'll come back to us at the January business meeting for adoption, and you'll potentially have some additional information to share with us at that point.
About spring break, yeah. And if there's any other questions or concerns in between now and then we can research. Okay,
Right, okay, thank you.
thank you for the board's consideration of that. Ms. Gunn, can we move on to policies?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a second read for board members. If we can go to 6140, please. Which is a policy on curriculum. Don't believe there were any changes based on feedback.
I didn't hear from anybody that had any other questions. So, do we have a motion, Mr. Fowler?
I do. A motion that the Milford Board of Education approves Board Policy 6140 curriculum as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Wolf-Boyton. Do we have any discussion on the policy? Any questions?
No.
Concerns, comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Fowler is no. So can we do a roll call, please, Ms. Griffin?
Catherine Ailing. Adam DeYoung.
Aye.
Megan Doyle.
Aye.
Andrew Fowler.
No.
Tracy Irby.
Aye.
Gary Pellicetti.
Aye.
Cindy Wolf Boynton.
Aye.
Susan Glennon.
Yes.
7-1.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, board. Can we go to 6141.51, which is student success plans, challenging curriculum enrollment in advanced courses or programs of study. You'll note a couple of changes under remote online learning. I believe we just finessed some language to make that more clear and more consistent with parallel structures there. And on the second page, just reference the board in that first full paragraph. Third paragraph down, there was some confusion, so we eliminated one or more. And that is all for the changes since we last spoke.
Thank you. Do you have a motion, Mr. Fowler?
I do. I motion that the Milford Board of Education approves Board Policy 6141.51, Student Success Plans, Challenging Curriculum, and Enrollment in Advanced Course or Programs of Study.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. DeYoung. Do you have any questions or concerns? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
We can have a roll call, Ms. Griffin?
Catherine Ailing.
Aye.
Adam DeYoung.
Aye.
Megan Doyle.
Aye.
Andrew Fowler.
No.
Tracy Irby.
Aye.
Gary Pellicetti.
Aye.
Cindy Wolf Boynton.
Yes.
And Susan Glennon.
Yes.
7-1.
Thank you.
Ms. Glennon, we need to rescind 6141.51, the original.
Correct. Mr. Fowler, do you have a motion for the rescission?
I do. I motion that the Milford Board of Education rescinds Board Policy 6141.51, Advanced Courses or Programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Pellicetti seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And last policy for your consideration this evening, board 6172.1, there are no changes.
Do you have a motion, Mr. Fowler?
I do. I motion that the Milford Board of Education approves Board Policy 6172.1, Gifted and Talented Identification and Programming as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. DeYoung has seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, board members. And we're gonna turn things over and make things up and introduce Ms. Kapazna, allowing her to provide with you our now Talent and Management Development Annual Report, right? Let's start using that. But HR report as noted on the agenda.
And I apologize, I was sick last month and unable to present then. But this month, we have our annual summary of HR activities, which, as you can see, connects to commitment number 8, committed to attracting, recruiting, retaining, and fostering a diverse community of talented professionals. And kind of an extension of what I spoke to you about last month. You'll see some of the common themes with our issues with being able to attract and retain employees, but we'll talk about some of that in this report. So this year, and again, the time period for this report is typically November 1st through October 31st of each year, so I try to keep it consistent so the numbers match up, so they're relative to each other. But this year, we posted 295 positions, which is pretty typical of the past 2 years, using our various platforms of online posting, as well as we mixed in Indeed.com, which you guys are probably all familiar with, and we've had some success there. We have completed a full year using our new frontline system, not so new anymore, but people are becoming very used to it, well versed in it. We're using some of the features we have never used before, the search features, so we can search for educators within the state of Connecticut, even if they have not applied to our district. So it is proving to be a good system so far. We processed way less applications this year, about 2,800 as opposed to 4,200 and 3,100 in the previous 2 years. And I think just people, there's not as many people out there maybe, I'm not sure why, but there was a lot less applications this year for the 295 jobs that we posted. Let's see. We processed 314 new employees this year, which is, believe it or not, more than the prior 2 years. So even though we had less applicants, we had more hires. Some of that could be due to turnover, hiring subs and then they leave the next month, or hiring a teacher and then they leave. But we did have a higher number of new hires processed this year. As you know, every new hire goes through a background screening, they're fingerprinted, TB tested. They go through a mandated DCF and educational employer verification background check, which is a state mandated check that went into play about 3 years ago now. And then the onboarding process for new hires is, of course, 100% paperless, which is a great thing. I mentioned in my report last month that we had purchased and installed the new live scan fingerprinting system. I think I mentioned it. Okay, good. So basically, it's, gone are the days when you would go down to the police department, there'd be this big giant, it looks like a copier, and you'd get ink on your fingers and roll your fingers. Now, it's literally a machine that's this big, and it sits in a locked room. It's very controlled as to who can have a key to this and what we have to do with the results, but it's a little digital thing, and you still roll your fingers on it, but you have no ink on your hands anymore. So we have purchased that for the district, thanks to the budgeting process. We were having a hard time. Our new employees couldn't get appointments with the police department. They were understaffed, of course. So we've taken that on, and now we get our results when you could be fingerprinted today, and we would have the results within a half an hour. Whereas before it was like 12 to 16 weeks before we would get results back. Thus, really opening us up to some liability. If you hire an employee, they get fingerprinted. 4 months later, we find out there's something, there's an issue in their past that we're not comfortable with. Now we short stop that and we get the results right away. So we're happy so far with that. Let's see, payroll action notices. If you don't know, a payroll action notice is any activity that happens, a new hire, a termination, a retirement, a change of location, a change of account code where something's charged. There needs to be a now paperless payroll action notice, which goes over to payroll and goes into our various systems to document where people are and who's here and who's not here. So that continues to go on. We were having a problem attracting interns, which we spoke about. We only had 13 interns this last year as compared to 22 the prior year. So again, this is indicative of individuals not going into the teaching field, which is of concern. And what we've done to kind of complement our intern process is hire building subs. They do serve somewhat of the same purpose. Of course, it doesn't help us in the future hiring of teachers because our building subs are typically not in the teaching field, whereas interns, of course, could become future employees. So, but we're hoping that will change, and we'll do our best to help that process along. So we continue to face a shortage of per diem subs, making it difficult, as you can imagine, to cover our daily absences, especially in the winter right now with all of the different, the flu and COVID and RSV, and then you add a little snowstorm. It becomes a difficult task each morning. Pre-COVID, we would typically carry about 145 to 150 substitute teachers, and right now we have about 105 in the system. And that is even after our job fairs and kind of bringing on a bunch of new substitutes over the past 3 months. We did raise the pay, as you know, from 125 to 140, so I do think that that's helped. The substitutes that we do have are pretty active, which is good. So we know who we can contact and who wants to work, and there's a bunch of them that just want to work every day, no matter where we want to put them, so that's been very helpful. We right now have 18 building subs. Last year we had 29. Part of that is intentional. Last year, due to COVID, we allowed our schools to have a few more. We were trying to cut it back. But even if we wanted to increase that back up to 29 right now, we would have a hard time doing it. So, but it seems to be working out so far. Let's see, we did have the 2 successful job fairs here at Parsons, one in August and one in October. We attracted a lot of people who came down and hired them on the spot. It was a great goodwill thing. People got to know us and the district and what we can do for them, what they can do for us. So we're hoping to continue such efforts like that to attract people in the future. In the employee benefits leave of absence area, obviously, pretty much everything here is the same. We've administered the benefits relative to vacations, leave of absences, holidays, and work schedules. We did switch our workers' comp carrier this year from Kerma to United Heartland, and although it's new, we're impressed so far with that company. We processed about 115 leaves of absence for employees over the past year. And many of those absences, if it's a certified person, we would have to recruit a long-term sub to fill that spot, which can prove to be difficult, but that's part of the territory, and we handle that. Let's see, we have about 1,700 employees, and that are on our benefits plans. About 1,000 active and 705 retired employees. And Maria and Dina over in our benefits area handle that. If you don't know, when you have retirees, it's not like you have one plan for retirees. Every contract that has retirees becomes a plan. So you have a teacher's contract that's good for 3 years. Anyone who retires under that plan becomes a retiree employee group for the purposes of benefits. So I think Maria has, I don't know, probably 80 different groups that she has to manage in the retiree area. So that can be tricky, but that's just the nature of the beast. We, provide counsel and advice to all employees about benefits, leaves of absence and maternity leaves. COVID-related quarantines and absences, again, are being tracked this year. We had over 500 instances. It actually went up compared to 450 in 2020, 2021. So that would include, people who had to be quarantined, which we're not doing anymore, so this number should go down next year. But with the, screen and stay, that's helped our staff remain in buildings rather than be out waiting to see if they're gonna come down with COVID. But we are still tracking those dates to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to and staying out when they are testing positive to keep the rest of our employees safe and healthy. And again, last year we had tracked, we had to do the weekly testing for those of our employees who are not vaccinated against COVID. And that was in September, but it ended in February of 2022. So that was a big responsibility, but that ended luckily. And labor employee relations, as we talked about today, we have 2 new contracts in addition to the teacher's contract that were negotiated and settled during this time period. And we're currently in negotiations with the security guard group. That is a very small group, and that negotiation started late, but we should be able to wrap that up relatively quickly because it is such a small group. And those are all for a 7/1/22 start, except for the teachers, which are negotiated a year ahead of time, so that won't start until 9/1/2023 for the teachers' contract. And then in addition, we negotiated a mid-cycle negotiation session with our secretaries union because of our greeter group going into that union. So because they were going in mid-contract, we had to negotiate what that meant for them, how we were gonna organize their pay, their insurance, their seniority, et cetera. So that was all handled. And all of our greeters are in that union, as well as a couple of part-time at the high school. We have a couple part-time clerical positions that also were added to that union. And as you can imagine, we handle various other employee issues such as discipline meetings, grievance investigations, and hearings. We did this over the summer and this fall. We had a few time-consuming hearings that really took up a lot of time, and we're waiting to hear some of the results of that hearing. Let's see, employee services and training. We continue to have an EAP, which is an employee assistance plan, which is available to all of our employees and their immediate family. We do get a lot of traffic in that area, as you can imagine. People have issues that they would like to talk to somebody about, and the after effects of COVID and all that, and what it's done to families. We have seen a little bit of an uptick in our usage of EAP, so it's really a valuable service, and we're proud to be able to offer that to our employees. The expanded Title IX regs have increased the number of cases that we have not increase the number of cases, but the amount of work that goes into handling these investigations. It's a very prescribed set of activities that have to happen for every complaint that you get, as far as documentation and letters that have to go to people. So that's been an intense process that was relatively new. New to Milford teachers were brought in before the start of the school year for the Milford Teacher Academy, or the MTA, so that they can be oriented to our vision, our mission, and our goals, and that proves to be a valuable program. And we try to do a session mid-year for our mid-year hires, because there's so many of them. We have not done that just yet, but we will get to that shortly. And then the TEAM program, which is a state program, Teacher Education and Mentoring Program, all new teachers who haven't gone through it, and if they're in certain certification areas, go through that program. I partner with Teaching and Learning to set everything up with that, assign mentors to our new teachers, do an orientation program. We do one of the modules. They have to go through 5 modules. Amy Rizzo and I and our team put that together. So that's an ongoing program, I should say. And then we did recruit and approve 16 new team mentors to become, so these are our teachers that are becoming team mentors that will mentor our brand new teachers in turn. So they were trained over the summer, and they're in the mix now to help become, to help be mentors for our brand new teachers. Let's see, record keeping. HR department maintains data and confidential records on all of our current and former employees, both in paper and electronic files. So we have, as you can imagine, a bunch of different programs. We have Alio, which is our payroll system, Kronos, which is another payroll system, Power School, and Frontline. So unfortunately, they don't all talk to each other, which is why we increased the number of modules that we got in the Frontline system, because those mostly do talk to one another. So we have begun the process of last year's hires and this year's new hires are all electronic personnel files. And we also, I'm probably skipping down, but we also have contracted out with Iron Mountain, which is a company that comes in and takes our physical files and scans them. And therefore, all of our old files become electronic files as well. So that's a multi-stage process, and we are probably about a quarter of the way through that. As you can imagine, we have a lot of paper files around here. The state statute, we have to keep our files for 30 years after somebody leaves, but we tend to keep them a lot longer at the advice of counsel. So we do have a lot of records, and we'd like to get them all safely on a computer so we can access them and not have to figure out whether they're in this closet or down in the basement or down the hall, which storage is prime real estate, so it'd be great when they're all on the computer when that's completed. Let's see, we update and monitor every teacher and administrator certification, making sure that the district is in full compliance. That is a job in and of itself, because, you know, as a teacher, you have this certification that you're responsible for, but because it doesn't expire all that often, we send out reminders to them so that we can make sure that they update their cert before it expires. And then that way they don't have to take additional classes, and the district is not at risk for losing whatever it is we might lose. We're pretty successful there, and are in 100% compliant with the state again. So state reports, you can imagine we have a lot. There's always a new state reports that crop up that we get involved in, and stay in compliance again with all of the various areas that the state requires us to be in compliance with. Unemployment claims, this year, I don't know if I mentioned it or if you've heard, but this summer, the State Department of Labor finally upgraded their unemployment system. It was probably 50 years old prior to that. They upgraded their computer system, and as a result, people who are less than honest figured out a way to scam people, and we had first, I don't know how, but people, these fictional people, but they would file a claim. So you could have an employment claim under Chris Brown's name and his social security number. And in the beginning, we were like trying to fill them out, like, why is Chris filing for unemployment? And then people in the state realized that there was fraud going on. And so we provided all of our employees with what to look for, because if that occurred, if I got a report on Chris filing for unemployment, he would get something at his house that looked like, just like a statement. And people did get them, and they didn't really know what it meant. They did, nowhere on there did it say, you have filed for unemployment. It was more just like a statement of what they earn and what they could make on unemployment. So we really, I don't even know, we probably had at least 24 employees who were affected by this. And they were able to go online and to tell the state that it was fraud and that it wasn't them. So we save money by not having claims against our account, because the Board of all municipalities pay dollar for dollar all the unemployment claims, unlike companies who pay like an experience rating. So that was pretty interesting this summer. And actually I got one today, but I haven't received one in probably a month up until today. So I think they're onto it, and hopefully that'll stop. So let's see, and then we hired a new secretary in June, Heather, for a vacancy that we had. We were without a secretary for about 6 months. So that was interesting, and she's doing a wonderful job. We're very happy with her. And this is where I mentioned the converting our paper files to electronic. We talked about that. We, again, led the process to select the Teacher, Para, and Parent of the Year, which is a great recognition program. We'd like to do more of that, but that is a state program that exists that's very, very nice. We are participating this year in the Connecticut Teacher in Residency Program, which is a non-traditional path to teacher certification. And I think I talked about this in my TMD report, but these are programs that we'd like to get more involved in, so we're trying to do as much as we can in that area to compensate for people not coming into the field of teaching. We're trying to go out there and get them and train them. So, and then Esther, who was here with me last month, working with the HR department on our transformative approach to the work. So I don't know, it's not in this report, but last month, did you get these? So I don't know if anyone needs another one, but I did print them. We talked about our busy hiring season. We hired 55 new teachers this past year, which is a little, like, in between. 74 is kind of high, 47 is kind of low. 55 is about average for, I would say, what we normally do. And the 55 teachers represent 18 distinct certification areas. They come from 18 different towns and cities, which we were talking about before. 19 of the 55 are Milford residents, which is always nice. And I've just attached that list, which highlights their educational background. You can see we have quite a few people with their 6th year and a couple people with new teachers with their PhDs. We did hire 2 new administrators in this time period. Jim Genova over at East Shore, our assistant principal there, and Therese McGuire, our new supervisor of early childhood programs. And on next year's report, just recently, we'll have our new equity person, Marissa Akampora, but that'll be next year's report. 16 teacher retirements this year, a little bit lower than average, and 33 teacher resignations, about average. And that's it for my annual report, unless you guys have any questions.
Questions on the annual report from Ms. Capasna? Ms. Doyle?
I think you mentioned it, but I can't remember, when all the paper documents are converted to electronic documents, can they be destroyed at that point, or is there a holding period again after that?
Yeah, they can be destroyed as soon as, 30 years after somebody leaves, or whatever our attorneys recommend, but we would just, hit a button, delete it.
But what I mean is, so we're converting the paper files
Yes.
that you have into
Sorry.
electronic, they can be destroyed, the paper
Yes.
copies can be destroyed and just have the electronic housed.
Correct.
there.
Yeah, and we
So-
did check with legal to make sure that that was okay, but the vendor that we hired actually does the destroying for us, which is good. So they take it, they scan it, and then they get rid of, they give us the information, let us look it over first, and then they destroy the paper copies.
So I don't know if you have an answer to this question. I know we've talked about a lot of space and storage issues. How many square footage of documents are you like talking
Oh,
about? I mean, 30
yes,
years
good
of
question.
1,000, I mean, that's 30,000 employees at a minimum we're talking about here.
Well, we're about a quarter of the way through the project. The first set that we sent down to Iron Mountain was about, I don't know, 50 boxes? Something,
I think it was like 10 file cabinets.
10, yeah. So that's just a quarter, so what that equates to, I can't do that math in my head, but maybe Mr. Bradbury,
A lot
but a
of
lot,
space
yeah.
that we are.
So this whole closet right here is filled with old personnel files, and then down in the basement, we have like rows and rows. Yeah,
And so they're wasting a lot of time of trying to find where it is dedicated and located and what year and
absolutely.
everything else. And
Yep, and we're hoping that after this, departments like PPS, payroll, accounting can do the same thing. It makes a lot of sense. It's just the way of, right, the present, I don't want to say the future, but, having everything on the computer is just way more efficient than having it in paper.
And this is a technical question of 30 years after they leave employment or never mind. I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, which makes it hard to track, right? Because we have things alphabetized, but, everyone has a different ending date. So that's why we keep things a lot longer than we probably need to.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Fowler?
Thank you. Ms. Capasna, just a quick question. I've noticed on, that every applicant for an open position must be vaccinated for COVID-19. I was just wondering, has that impacted the hiring process at all from your perspective? And do you anticipate that this practice will go into the next school year?
So as far as impact, we have not really seen that much of an impact, but of course it's hard to tell because
Right.
if people are just not applying because of that, we wouldn't know that. I think we had maybe 1 or 2 people where we made offers to them and really wanted them, but they were not vaccinated. We've also had people say, well, I've been thinking about getting vaccinated and I really want to work for you, so I'm gonna get vaccinated. So we've had it kind of, throughout the spectrum. And, it's not something we, that we would want to stop mid-year, but we're kind of hoping for next August that we can
Right.
discontinue that practice based on everything that we know about the disease and what, that really, if you have it, it really doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not. So I think we've learned a lot and, hopefully we can not have that going into next year.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Other questions for Ms. Capasna? Mr. Richatelli, can you, will there be usable storage space for the district once all of the file cabinets are gone? I imagine maybe just in the basement.
Little more, yes.
Okay. Thank you for your annual report, Ms. Capasna. Now we have your monthly report.
Yes, thank you. This one will be shorter, I promise. So in my monthly report, you do have the job postings, personnel recommendations, retirements, resignations, terminations, and stipend appointments. I do want to point out that we are up to 4 retirements. I know this is a number that I try to give you every month. 1 that had already occurred in the late summer, and then 3 more that are scheduled for the end of the school year, 6/30/23. And in the teacher contract, we do offer a early retirement, like a little bonus, it's $500. So those 3 teachers will be getting that.
When does that stop?
December 15th, couple days. Not that we want anyone to retire, but if they did it the next couple days, they would get that. So I think, our history, if we have 4 now, I think we should come in probably around average, the average number.
Any questions for Ms. Capasna on her monthly report? Okay, I see none. We can
Thank
move
you.
on. Dr. Kutaya? Thank you, Ms.
Mr. Kelly will
Capasna.
be giving you his disbursement report.
Thank you, Dr. Kutaya and Mrs. Glenn. Members of the board, in your package, you have a listing of all of the disbursements for the district over the amount of $1,500 for the month of November. And those items that are attributed to COVID, we're still highlighting in yellow. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Mr. Richatelli on the disbursement report? Okay, seeing none.
That
Thank you, Mr.
concludes the
Richatelli.
superintendent's report, Ms. Glenn.
Thank you, Dr. Kutaya. We move on to consent agenda. Mr. Fowler, do you have a motion?
I do. A motion that the Milford Board of Education approves consent agenda items, consideration of minutes for the November 14th, 2022 business meeting and the November 28th, 2022 committee of the whole meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. DeYoung seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're going to go into executive session. At this time, Mr. Fowler, do you have a motion for that, please?
Do a motion to adjourn to executive session for the superintendent's mid-year update. Dr. Kataya is invited into the session.
Is there a second? Mr. Palachetti? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll go into executive session at 8:01. Board members, we do have to come back here when we're done for board comment and to adjourn our meeting, so. No. So it is 9:20, and we are reconvening from executive session to public session. We have 2 more agenda items. We have board comment. Does anybody have board comment this evening?
I do.
Yes, Ms. Doyle.
I just wanted to congratulate the foreign and law football team for an excellent showing of sportsmanship on Thanksgiving Day. It was really good to see the way law put on the football game, how well it was run, with a huge crowd that showed up, with the communication that came through from bids going from there, to seeing each of those elements that we are working towards as a district and where the money is being spent and what we're going towards, to see it come through in our students and where they are. And congratulate Law for going as far as they did in terms of that. And yeah, it was great to see and to be part of the community. I attended the Thanksgiving game and 2 games afterwards. So it was really fun to see and be part of the law community in that space, and pride in our students for how hard they work.
Any other members of the board would like to make comment? Seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and we're adjourned at 9:21. Thank you, everybody. Have
Happy
a-
holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.